Hi friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Mobility Mama podcast. I'm so happy you're here, whether you're listening while you're driving, folding laundry, out on a walk, or maybe you're one of the lucky ones who's drinking a hot cup of coffee before everyone wakes up. Welcome. Today's episode has been on my heart for a while because it's something I've been learning over the past few years. It's not really about mobility, but movement definitely plays a role. It's about the stories we tell ourselves as moms, because honestly, I believe those stories shape the motherhood experience that we have. So today I want to share one story I had to stop telling myself and what happened when I finally did. Before we jump in, I want to start by sharing something that's been bringing me joy. This week it's been all about those rare quiet mornings outside with my coffee before the boys wake up. They don't happen every day. Actually, they happen way less than I'd like. But when they do, I'm just like this. I sit, no phone, no to-do list, no productivity, just coffee, fresh air, birds chirping, a few quiet minutes before the day really gets going. And it's funny because you might expect me to say that before becoming a mom, I didn't appreciate moments like this, but I sure did. I would wake up so early before any of the jobs I had just to get that time for me. I feel like it's so important to have that time for self, whether it's super early in the morning or maybe it's at night. Maybe it's because you're a full-time momin or you're building something of your own, or you just want that sense of grounding and bonus time before the day really kicks into gear. Aside from all that though, I really think motherhood does have a way of making us appreciate the really simple things. And I'd love to know what's been bringing you joy this week too. The story I used to tell myself. When I became a first-time mom, I remember feeling really isolated. We only had one car at the time, and my husband had it most days for work. I didn't really have friends nearby who had kids. I actually felt like I was the first one of my friends to get pregnant. And one of the hardest things for me was shifting into a stay-at-home mom role. It's what my husband and I decided made the most sense for us in our circumstances, and I wanted it too. I just didn't realize the major identity shift that I was about to go through, from being someone who loved working and being around people all the time to then being home 90% of the time and not working. That was so tough for me. And I'm not suggesting this is how anyone else would feel. I'm just sharing my story. Most of the days looked exactly the same. I absolutely loved my baby, but if I'm being completely honest, I also felt so lonely. I remember looking around and thinking, is this just what being a mom is now? Like, does everyone else seem to have it figured out? And why does it feel so hard? Maybe you've had thoughts like that too, or maybe not. Maybe your circumstances looked completely different. But I think almost every mom has moments where she wonders if she's the only one struggling. Over time, I did finally realize something. I had started telling myself a story, and the story wasn't completely untrue. Parts of it were so very real, and motherhood is hard sometimes. It can feel lonely, it can feel super overwhelming, but I did notice something. The story I kept repeating wasn't helping me become the woman or the mom I wanted to be. And that's the main thing I noticed. I found myself focusing on questions like, why is this so hard? Why does everyone else seem to have more help? When will I finally feel like myself again? Where did I go? Where is Cealia? And while those questions made complete sense, they weren't leading me anywhere hopeful or helpful. They weren't doing me any favors. So I slowly started asking different questions. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? I started asking, what can I do today that helps me feel a little more like myself? And most of the time that looked like taking my baby for like a 3-hour stroller walk. Sometimes it meant calling a friend, sometimes it was reading a book, but many times it was walking, sitting outside with my coffee. And honestly, most of the time it meant rolling out my yoga mat for just a few minutes, whether my baby was hanging out with me or maybe he was sleeping. I just would find myself rolling it out to be with myself. And it wasn't because I needed a workout or needed to burn calories. Yes, I worked out for those reasons, but these moments were different. this movement on my mat reminded me that I was still in there. I was still me. I think we're living in a time where there's almost pressure to talk about motherhood in extremes. Either everything is magical and perfect and wonderful, or everything is miserable and just awful and my life is over, blah, blah, blah. But I don't actually think either one of those tells the whole story. Motherhood has been the greatest joy of my life, but it has also stretched me in ways I never expected. It's asked me to become more patient, for sure, more flexible, more resilient, and yes, sometimes I have cried in the pantry with a bag of chocolate chips in my hands, okay? Sometimes I've been completely overwhelmed, but I've also laughed harder than I ever have before. I've watched my boys discover the world with such unfiltered joy. I've learned that joy and exhaustion can exist in the very same day and in the very same moments. Both things can be true. People sometimes ask me why I'm so passionate about yoga. Honestly, people ask me that all the time. And honestly, it's because it's always been there for me. It's the main way I reconnect with myself. Those few minutes were never just about my hips or my shoulders. They reminded me that I'm worth taking care of too. I'm still me. I may be adapting and evolving, but I'm still in there somewhere. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about movement. It doesn't have to be another thing on your to-do list. It can actually become one of the ways you refill your cup and sort of tap into who you are and how you fit into the universe, even if it's just for 5 minutes. If you're listening today and you're in one of those seasons where motherhood feels heavier than you expected, I just want to remind you of something. You don't have to pretend everything is okay. You don't have to force yourself to be positive all the time. But you also don't have to stay in the story that says this is just how it's always going to be. Sometimes the smallest decisions begin with changing the story. 5 minutes on your mat, a walk, a conversation with a friend, all those tiny things. A mobility flow, a deep breath before reacting. Small things repeated consistently. They can completely change the way we experience our days. So here's your reset for the week. Pay attention to the story you're telling yourself. Not with guilt, just with curiosity, just building awareness around how you're feeling and what you're saying. Ask yourself, is this story helping me become the woman I want to be? If the answer is no, what's one small shift you can make? Not tomorrow, not on Monday, not any future time on your calendar, but right now, today. And maybe that's just a few minutes of movement. Maybe it's asking for help or giving yourself permission to let something go. Whatever it is, I hope you choose something that helps you reconnect with yourself. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me. I never take it for granted that you choose to spend these minutes here, and I hope you leave feeling just a little lighter than when you pressed play. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe so we can keep having these conversations every week, and I'd really love to hear from you in the comments. What's one story about motherhood you've had to let go of, or one that's helping you through this season? I read every comment, and hearing your experience reminds all of us that we're not doing this alone. So until next week, keep moving in a way that helps you feel strong, free, and connected to yourself. I'll see you next week on the Mobility Mama podcast. Bye.